get a boo here. You're late, dude, on Bama week of all
Yeah,
weeks. What are you doing?
I was actually just sitting watching the chat. I actually commented around like 7:25, and I didn't actually enter the StreamYard. But yeah, Wi-Fi's up, ready to go. Bama, it's Bama week, Blake. It's also important to point this out, Blake, that this is the last time that Bama is going to feel like this. And I said this last year before the game because it was the last LSU Bama home game. But now this is the last LSU Bama game before we move to the 12-team playoffs. So if you win, you're still alive. If you lose, you're out altogether. So I just love the fact that this game, even though it's on the road, even though it is versus a really good team, I'm so glad, Blake, that this game means everything to not only both of these teams, but the playoff picture as a whole.
Yeah, which is so wild. Everybody who says that there won't be an impact with more of a playoff, I mean, if you lose, you can still get in. So, I mean, to your point, don't say that this doesn't mean a lot because essentially this is, as we've been saying for a couple of weeks now, is for the West. The reason Michael Moore said the reason that you were late was because he's out practicing DB with the $199 super chat. Is that what you were doing because of Deuce Chestnut and Zy Alexander and Denver Harris being out?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's Morse, I think, with Justin Moore. And I like Justin Moore. I'm short. So I knew Justin when I used to do my old job. But yeah, I am not fast enough. I'm not tall enough, not near athletic enough. I think at this point I would run probably a 6'4", 40-yard dash. So there you go.
All right, Bullfrog, I'm not going to say that last name. Says, name a more delusional fan base than Alabama's. Bet you can't. Good God, it's like they're getting worse. Thank you, Bullfrog, for the super chat. I got to admit, I don't know if there's – so let's start off here. I don't know if there's a lot of positivity in T-Town right now. They think that they could lose. They're going in this game thinking there's a high potential that they could lose. But, Carter, when you look at this game, I've watched more Alabama the last 2 weeks than I know what to do with. I think that they can be flawed, okay, in a lot of areas, but they keep finding ways to win because that defense has been so good.
Yeah, so let's start with the defense, right? This is going to be a better unit than the unit we played last year because we're going to be at their place. That's such a huge difference, right? You're going to be dealing with the night crowd and Bryant Denny, and this is going to be a lit Bryant Denny crowd, but this is going to be the first revenge game that they've had at home, right? So beat them, 2011, and then we've not won a home game since last year or since 2010. So they have had this game circled on the calendar for quite some time, even more so than the third Saturday in October, right? The Tennessee matchup that they want a revenge in from last year's game. I feel like in their heart of hearts, since Alabama has dominated Tennessee for so long, this is a game that they really want because they know that this game is also for the West, right? So it is going to be tough to go in there and get a victory. But once again, some good news. Emory Jones is a full go. Yep. And those two were two of the biggest difference makers, him and Will, last year's true freshman, and LSU's going to need him to play big again.
Carter, the big thing about what happened last year that I'm not saying I was surprised by it, but the following Monday, you and I came in here and said, look, man, that LSU offensive line dominated Alabama up front.
Yes.
Carter, they're not necessarily better than that. I mean, Will Anderson's not on that front, is not in that front seven. I do think that they play better as a unit. They've been able to send blitzes. Kevin Steele has shadowed some things that they do because of all the blitzing that he's been doing. But, man, up front, I think you could have a big day on this defense. I think you can there is some yards to be had in this running game. It's not like the past when you've seen a good Alabama defense. It's that, man, you can't run against them. No, you can run against this team.
Yeah, it's not. There's just no Jonathan Allen up in that front, right?
Right. No, they're at Georgia.
Right. That's good. Tim Smith is playing pretty well for them. Obviously, 92 is a good player for them, but their stars are their ends, Braswell and Turner. So no, that's number 41 and number 15 for them. 32 is a good backer, but I do agree, Blake, with everything that Bama's going to try to do to stop Malik, BTJ, and Jaden, you will get some pretty good running opportunities, especially not only with how the offensive line is playing, it's how Mason Taylor is playing right now. So LSU's been doing a really good job getting their run fits offensively, and I think they will be able to run the football some. But I go back to what I said last week when I was in the middle of some random parking lot. when you have Jaden Daniels as your quarterback, when you have transcendency at the quarterback position, which honestly Jaden has given us transcendent, unfreaking believable play, it's just such a big advantage, right? And if he continues to play at that level and the LSU defense could give you just a few stops, I think this could be a victorious night for LSU and Tiger Stadium. Hopefully it's like Tiger Stadium. Hope the fans that are going there are going to be so loud that you're going to think it's Tiger Stadium on Saturday night.
You're going to have to quiet them early.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, and look, Bama has not been a good first half team. It is a tale of two halves with them. The second half, they come out like a man possessed with the devil. Okay, they play really good in the second half. The thing is, man, when you start, if you start off hot like what A&M did, like what Tennessee did, even to some extent, Carter, what Texas did, you gotta continue to put the pedal to the metal, foot on their throat, 4 quarters. Don't let up on them.
Yeah, I'm with you. David has a good question here on Facebook because we brought it up last week, and I think you said that you were going to wait and come to your conclusion. Do you take the football or defer, Blake?
Give me the ball.
I'm deferring for this reason, right? Alabama's not been a good first quarter team, as you said. They have had good third quarters, right?
Yeah, they're the best third quarter team in the country.
So if that's the case, you want to defer and take the football because Alabama's best drive versus Tennessee, and it was just 2 unbelievably dominant plays, were to start the third quarter. So I would defer in this case. But to your point,
I ain't scared.
Yeah, I'm not either. But in most cases, Blake, I'm a defer to the second half.
I don't hate either one. I don't have like a. So when because that question got completely just, people in the chat were going nuts. So guys, I don't care what you do. I just want to. I'm an offensive dude. Like I want to get the ball and go and score. I mean, I want the ball to go down and score. Like what you talk? Because Carter, here's a reason. You go down there and score once, okay? You go down there and score, you shut them up a little bit because God forbid they have a 3-and-out offensively. God forbid they can't go down and score. And here's another thing. What if Jaden Daniels goes down there a second time and scores up on that ass and they're down 14-0? Because it's exactly what Tennessee did. Joe Milton missed a wide-ass open receiver in the back of the end zone. Yep. Jaden Daniels will not miss that throw. It's not going to happen. So what happens in Bryant Denny if you're down 14?
They're in a lot of trouble. But
more in trouble, Big Daddy. It's going to take them 6 years to get to 14 points.
Well, I know you don't believe that.
I do not believe that. I do think it'll take them 16 minutes. It's going to take them 16 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, look. What I would say about the LSU defense going into this game, right, is you look at what LSU's done defensively the last couple of weeks. That is encouraging, but you can't let the deep ball get you, right? Here is what I've done, all right, and my full breakdowns on Patreon. I'm going to be breaking stuff down all this week, but the truth here, Blake, is Alabama has been bailed out of some situations with
1,000%
with some really bad coverage on the back end. And I know what a lot of people are going to say when I say that. Well, our coverage has sucked. So, we're going to have that same bad coverage, right? Well, there's a difference in how you get beat deep, right? if Keon Coleman mosses someone, that's just going to happen. Okay. Jermaine Burton is a really good jump ball catcher for Alabama. That's just going to happen. What you don't want to happen is these non-resistant coverage busts where guys are just wide open, and Jalen Milroe, who doesn't have the best pocket presence, he is good on deeper patterns, is able to step up, gather himself, and throw an absolutely perfect bomb down the field. So you cannot let those types of things happen. Make them have to jump over you and make a catch. Make them have to drive the football down the field. Blake, LSU's...
If you're beat, Carter, hold them.
Yeah. Look, LSU's defense is bad in every category. I mean, in almost every single category, including red zone defense. They have not been a good red zone defense this year.
They have not.
But the inverse of that is also true. Alabama has not been a great red zone offense. They, Blake, are second to last in the SEC in red zone touchdown percentage. They are last in the SEC, I think, in just red zone efficiency, period. So make them have to settle for 3 instead of 7. And if you can do that a few times, you have to go into this game just trusting Jaden's going to score enough to win if you're holding them to field goals in the red zone. One other thing that really helps out Alabama is over the years versus Nick Saban, one thing that is a total backbreaker is, let's just say there is a scoop and score situation, or a pick six situation or a punt return situation. Alabama is so freaking good at scoring non-offensive touchdowns.
Yep.
Even if you have to horse collar a guy to the ground, do it. Don't make them have to bring their offense back on the field and execute in the red zone, because you don't want to give them those, because that Alabama crowd, they know it. That's in Nick Saban MO. Don't give them.
I mean, Carter, that's how they beat A&M.
Right. I mean, it's
shots to Jermaine Burton, and defensively, they were just on another level. But let's stay on LSU offense for a quick second.
Yeah.
I am really nervous about what's going on the boundary corner
for LSU's defense.
Yeah,
you should be. It is code red, right? The situation. I know a lot of LSU fans that look forward to this, look forward to your streams, my streams, and all of this. Obviously, we've been on the same song and dance even this offseason when it was clear that the LSU secondary was in a really tough spot. I did not think it could get worse, Blake. I just did not think. But it did, with Zy Alexander being out of the lineup. So it's just going to be one of those things where you just got to figure it out. Now, sometimes this could be a gold opportunity for us to force someone to play. And what if that person is actually one of the better DBs? So if you are Jeremiah Hughes, if you are Javian Toviano, if you are one of those guys that gets your first absolute opportunity, show out, young bucks. This is your
the problem I have with that is, then you're going to have to, like, for example, if Jeremiah Hughes is the dude, you got a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, and that's where you as a coach, that's where you as a coaching staff needs to just swallow your pride if he actually is the guy, right? I mean, if
it's Toviano, you got a lot that you have to answer for at that point.
You do. And I thought about that earlier, Blake. It sucks, right? I've gotten to know a little bit.
So even if you do actually do good, it's not like, because where were they against Bama? I mean, where were they against Ole Miss?
I mean, I don't know.
Right.
So whoever the case may be, you're going to need those guys to step up. And this is going to be a big spot for Sage Ryan. Yet again, on the road, it's been just tough performances for him in particular. This game means a lot to him, right? This is a guy who went down to the wire. I mean, Blake, you remember this. This was this is a classic.
On Saban's birthday, remember? He was committing on Halloween, right?
Every single person had him going to Bama.
Yep.
Every single person.
Not one.
What'd you say?
Not one person.
Not one person had him.
One person predicted LSU, even though everybody put in their picks for Bama. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, you had LSU.
I don't
like it.
Maybe I wish I didn't, but continue.
Well, look, this is his chance. I'm telling you, if Sage has just the most Patrick Peterson shutdown performance ever, there will never be a chance.
Don't give me hope. Don't give me that kind of hope.
But look, this could be it. This could be him saying that. That could be me on the other side. I'm going to show all these LSU fans I've made the right decision and have the game that he wants to have. Now, you look at Jalen Milroe, Blake. The stat that stands out the most to me is you look throughout all of college football. Jalen Milroe is by far the leader in big time throw rate. Yep. Okay. Yep. No one's close. So what does that mean exactly? Well, that means he's a very good deep ball thrower, which he is. But it is a rate statistic. So, Jaden Daniels is a top 10 big time throw rate performer in all of college football. But Jaden Daniels has more deep passes overall than Milroe does. So What does that mean? That means Jaden is a better overall thrower. He's a better intermediate thrower. He's a better shallow thrower. Where Jalen Milroe is feast or famine. So you have got to force him to methodically move the football down the field. You just do.
To that point, Carter, did you know on first downs obtained for this offense, they are 97th in the country? Just to give a comparison, number 99 is South Carolina and number 100 is Auburn.
It's crazy.
They do not get first downs, man. They are so for them, when you talk about feast or famine, Alabama is the ultimate feast or famine. They are top 35, 40 in every other statistical category, other than maybe pass offense is not good. But Carter, rush offense, they're 76 in the country. They are a feast of famine as you will find, man. Like it is explosion plays or not. But the problem is they keep hitting them. We do have two super chats here for you, both by Player X. He says, hey, Blake, ask Carter if he thinks that LSU will run some new run fits this week. And do we play single high coverage to bring pressure? P.S. Drake all the way and Buck Fama.
Yeah, so he's been telling me Drake's better than Lil Wayne for weeks now.
He's an idiot.
And he eventually came around and had the right opinion on that. But to his point,
Wayne's my favorite. Don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm named after him. So I mean, that's did you know that?
Yeah. All right. So what do you think? Do you think you play single high? And do you think I don't think there's any new. Maybe there's some different run fits, but what do you think?
Yeah. So let's take a look at this Bama run game. All right, so you were mentioning their offensive line. One thing that they're really good at is when they actually do block well, they're good at finishing blocks. They can put you on your rear end if you let them get a hold of you. That's because they have multiple 325 to 350 guys. When they had big plays, Blake, it was when Tennessee's defensive line actually fell to the ground, right? They had some huge plays in the run game and the pass game when they were able to get Tennessee out of their lanes, right? I don't think Bama's running back room is anything special, right? They're the same as last year outside of Jahmyr Gibbs being gone. So McClellan is a good back. Roydell Williams in particular is an excellent short yardage back, but none of those guys are game breakers, right? So I actually like this tackling matchup a little bit better for Omar Speights, who you mentioned a minute ago, and Greg Penn. So I think LSU's linebackers should be in a better spot to stop them versus the run. Okay. And then, you take a look at the single high comment. I don't think you'll see a lot of single high. I
don't think you can.
No, I don't. No. I honestly don't think that would be a good strategy at all. Right. If you want to stop their deep things and you don't want to give up deep stuff, then don't do cover one. That's not what I would do. But here's one thing
I do think you're going to have to mix it in though. You're going to have to give look, even though LSU defensively has not been good, that does not stop that you have to give him a crap load of looks. You're going to have to throw a whole bunch of different shit at him and let him process. It's exactly what Texas did.
Right. One more thing I would say, okay, and I will defend Matt House here, Okay.
Oh, Lord.
All right. Now, once again, when Matt House was hired, I wasn't the biggest fan. Okay. I've said that on here before. But his best game came against Alabama last year. Okay. Now, what's in common, right, with the Alabama game from last year where Bryce Young in his entire illustrious career, like Bryce Young had less than 50% completions. Like that
It was
is
his worst game as a collegiate starter.
And if you really look at the throws that he completed, they were miracles, right? It was, dancing around and doing magic, right? Um, that game gave Matt House, who knows a lot about football, okay? It's never been a lack of football knowledge for Matt House. Everyone, they'll tell you that he knows the game back to front. He might not be the best play caller, but he has 2 weeks to prepare here, right? Think about what he had to deal with at the beginning of the season, right? The secondary being even worse than what they initially thought. But his position group trying to figure out who his best linebackers are. Well, is Harold Perkins going to be one of our inside guys? No, he needs to be an outside guy. Omar Spates gets hurt. So now Matt House, this is the first time this entire season, Blake, where he's been able to reset, right? Now they know where Harold Perkins wants to be. Now he knows who his two linebackers inside are going to be. Now, Whit Weeks doesn't have the pressure to be in the true freshman starter and playing back to front for an entire game. This could be a better game for Matt House than we give him credit for, and hopefully that is the case.
The last time you started a senior on the outside and a true freshman on the other side, LSU went into Tuscaloosa and won.
That's true. Okay, baby.
And you had a Heisman hopeful at quarterback. Yeah. Player X says, another $9.99 super chat says, ask Carter if we do.
That's the same one.
That's the same one?
Yeah, go.
Okay. Well, thank you for the double super chat. I do appreciate it. Carter, let's move over to LSU. Look, we spent a lot of time on LSU defensively. Let's move to a couple other things. Mekhi Wingo being out. For me, I think Jordan Jefferson is their best interior defensive lineman. I'm not saying it isn't a miss. Like, you're not going to miss him. I'm not even remotely saying that, okay? What I am saying is I know that Alabama's center play has not been good. Neither has their guard play, really, okay? Especially in the run game at times. And I think Jordan Jefferson could have a massive day. Also, with that being added, Perkins has got to go off, man. He's got to have his big game. Like, I know he's played really well since Mizzou, okay? But I think the two biggest keys for you defensively is number 4 and number 99. And I think if they have big games, you come out with a win too.
Yeah, and I'll also say Mason did a few more like Mason kind of things versus Army, which is good to see as well. So,
but it's Army.
Yeah. But I hope obviously Jordan Jefferson continues to play well. But look, this is going to need to be all hands on deck. This is going to need to be a Guillory game. This is going to need to be a Swinton game, a Parasham game. So they're going to get their opportunities. Look, cool. You shut out Army. You held Auburn 18 points. Honestly, that's great. Good, dandy, whatever you want to call it. This is where your legacy is cemented, right?
Yep.
I remember pretty much every LSU defensive performance versus Alabama, and we've had some incredible ones versus some really good offenses, holding Jalen Hurts to 10 points. Going up against, Blake Sims, even though he's not the best quarterback, that offense was loaded. AJ McCarron and that offense with Geldon, I mean, it took the final drive, right? So this is where you're going to be remembered, and this is where, you can make yourself a lot of money with some draft stock too.
You know what's interesting? We talk a lot, and it will be brought up all week because Tommy Rees is the OC. And Alabama obviously played under Brian Kelly. And he's going to know what Brian Kelly wants to do. But Brian Kelly's going to know exactly what Tommy wants to do.
Yes.
I don't think that's the coaching matchup that we need to be talking about.
Ooh.
I think there's two.
Let's hear it.
I'm hearing some things about Denbrock that people are picking up the phone and calling. Hey, man, we might have an opening. Would you be interested? Okay. But the biggest thing, and these are the high-profile games, I just feel better that Brian Kelly's your head coach, dude. Like him with 2 weeks is massively different than Orgeron, than Les. Like you're more on an equal playing field because he's such a great in-game coach, man, especially offensively. So I do think that he's going to have a plan that Carter. I think that he's good enough to know, like, hey, Alabama has a deficiency here on defense, and he's going to attack it, and nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, I am in agreement with you. Okay, and I've been critical of Brian Kelly in some spots this year, but this is a good spot for him, right? With the extra week to prepare.
To really interrupt you, what have you been critical? Because I mean,
yeah. So some of the fourth down decisions, I would have been a little bit more. I would have been a little bit more aggressive on that, but for the most part, he's obviously done a really good job coaching what has been a very weird season. Obviously, with one side of the football being so drastically better than the other, it's always kind of disheveling.
How much different is it from last year?
I mean.
You flip it. You flip, okay? You flip what it is, all right? You flip the sides of the ball. Right. I got a little bit of a newsflash for you. You were a lot in the same places at this time last year statistically on offense.
Yeah, but there were some good offensive performances.
There was.
There were some.
You know what it was called?
What?
Shane Daniels is what it was called.
Yeah, I mean there was there, but to your point. Right, the roles have flipped, but I honestly think there is so much pressure on Tommy Rees in this game. I really do. Like I just think that this is going to be such a tough spot. I mean, he owes Brian Kelly his career up to this point, right? And Brian Kelly still obviously has a lot of admiration for him. That was, his quarterback, and that was Rees's first big job was Notre Dame. So, this job in Tuscaloosa was really his first big job.
By himself.
Yes, out in the world, right? That's always tough, right? It's kind of like the first time you not living with your parents anymore, right? It's you're out in the world, you're at your own thing. You don't have, well, that's our quarterback being our OC, and who cares if it's not a good offense? This is Alabama. You need results. So it's going to be a tough spot for him. But to your point, Mike Denbrock has been so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like so good. It's not just Jaden. It's not just the players. The schemes have been so great. You've seen him incorporate a lot of things that the Dolphins and the 49ers do with what the LSU offense did. I found a few Easter eggs in this game versus Army that I thought was interesting, that I think is setting up for what could be a good spot.
I know exactly where you're going. Continue.
I won't say it. I won't say it aloud. But what I would also say, though, is Kevin Steele is a really good defensive coordinator. I've always been a little bit higher on him than most. Okay. This guy was the only human to stop 2019 LSU, the only one. And I say stop because he really didn't stop him. I mean, LSU still won the game. But that was an Auburn defense that played 88 plays, right, which is a metric F ton of plays. And they were the only defense to hold 2019 LSU to under 6 yards per play.
They had a guy named Derek Brown. Alabama does not have Derek Brown.
That's true. And, if you go back and, I know a little bit about, some of the play calling issues that LSU had. Auburn switched up everything that they did defensively before the game. Yep. So it was something that they had not seen.
Something that everybody tried to implement. Clemson tried to implement. Georgia tried to implement, and nobody could reciprocate what Auburn did that year. It was the 3-2-6 that everybody tried to run on them, and it didn't work.
It didn't work because they had seen it and they knew what they had to do versus it.
Carter, do you really think that they're going to do something like that? I think he's going to try to get after Jaden. I really think he's going to bring the house.
I think Steele and Saban are dumb enough to not at least give them something they haven't seen yet. Or something that they haven't shown yet. So I think you're going. I think you're going to see some of that, and Kevin's a really good coach. So hopefully we'll line him up like we've been lining everybody up. One thing I will say is their special teams is elite. They have top five kicker, top 5 punter in the country. So it's going to be an interesting matchup.
I said this morning on God dog it. It wasn't Sean Fox. It's their earlier show with Puffy. They asked me about special teams. Greg Clayton, catch the ball.
Catch it. Can't give
you
up. You
cannot give up that hidden yardage, dude.
It's huge.
You know, it'd be awesome though if Aaron Anderson got back there and got to house one. Boy, wouldn't that be some salt in the wound?
I couldn't imagine what his body would feel like. He would just start flying. He'd just start floating up in the air.
Dude, if that happens, I swear to God, they're gonna kick me off Twitter.
All
right, the power, Bryant. You know what I'm gonna ask you to leave here. You think LSU pulls it out?
I do. Before the season, Blake, I had LSU losing 2 games. I had them losing Florida State, and I had them losing Ole Miss. Okay, I went back and forth between Ole Miss and Missouri, and I ended up going with Ole Miss as one of their preseason losses. I don't feel LSU wins out the rest of the way. It's going to be really hard with the defense being as banged up as it is. So I'm not as being rigid as just saying, hey, my preseason prediction was LSU running the table after losing one of those back-to-back road games. But I do think they win this game. I do. I think if you force Milroe to methodically move the football up the field and you let Jaden cook and he continues to play at the level that he's playing, I do think LSU wins this game. And it's just how I feel. And once again, I'm an LSU fan like everybody else watching this probably. Blake, I really do feel LSU's going to win this football game. I do.
Dude, if they beat them in back-to-back years, it's going to be something. All right, Carter the Power.